Hello, my friends. Hello, team. Hello, humanity. Welcome to our Authentic Dating Secrets Hour. This is Robert Schwenkler with me, and I am Joshua Hathaway, and I hope you're having a fabulous beginning to a magnificent 2020.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to talk about some mojo that we think is actually incredibly important. It's at the core. It's this inner game that's at the core of cultivating really authentic, deeply mutually satisfying relationships. It's what we call radical permission to want what you want.
Yeah.
It's about ending the bullshit calculus and living out loud in your life and in your relationships.
Yeah. So I want you to imagine for a moment what it would be like to live a life where you're a soccer fan. You love soccer with a passion, and you just deep inside of your heart, you just want to be playing soccer all the time. You want to be watching soccer. You could live and breathe soccer. But the only thing is that Joshua and I are Americans. You're an American, and you're like, well, soccer's not really that American. It's kind of for Europeans. And honestly, I think that if other people knew that I wanted to play soccer, I might be shunned and laughed at and even rejected from the community. So, I'm just going to decide to hold my desire for soccer inside of my heart. And what's actually happening on a subconscious level is I've suppressed that desire for soccer so much that a lot of times I don't even really realize that I'm wanting to play soccer when I'm wanting to play soccer. So I live a life where on some deep level, I yearn for soccer, but everybody else is playing volleyball, let's say, or basketball. Basketball is an American sport. Everybody else is playing basketball. And like, I really want to play with people. Oh, there's this woman. She looks like she wants to play basketball, and basketball is an acceptable thing to play. So I'm going to go talk to her about playing basketball. We play basketball for a little bit. And then I end up frustrated after 5 or 10 minutes of playing basketball. And we get into an argument, and there's some conflict, and we end the basketball game in a huff, and I go on with my life. And imagine this just continuing to repeat ad nauseum, continuing to find people and communities who want to play basketball, and continuing to experience frustration and conflict, and ultimately, like in a lot of ways, a lack of approval of myself. Like, what's wrong with me? I'm not very good at basketball. What's wrong with me? I never find somebody who wants to play basketball the way that I want. When what's actually happening, the only thing that's actually happening this whole time is that I just want to be playing soccer instead.
And, this might sound kind of ridiculous, but I promise you that this shit is happening all over your life. If you start paying attention to what you really want, right? And it starts by giving yourself radical permission to be a soccer fan, to want what you want, and to not compromise what you want because you don't think somebody's going to meet you there. And I want to talk for a moment about what I call bullshit calculus. This comes out of my no bullshit communication work. Bullshit calculus is something that we're constantly doing underneath the surface of our lives all the time. And it basically goes like this. We start with an actual authentic desire, something that we really truly want. And then ensues the bullshit calculus. And the first thing we subtract from what we want before we ever express it or go after it is we subtract what we're not worthy of having, right? So we subtract what we're not worthy of in the first place. And then we subtract what nobody would give us even if we were worthy of it, right? Like nobody's gonna meet me there. Nobody's gonna give me that, right? And then we do yet another subtraction, which is what I call the douchebag factor. We subtract what I would look like a total asshole or a douchebag or a selfish bitch for asking for and really wanting, right? And then we end up at the end of that calculus with a meager portion of what we really want that we're willing to ask for and express and go after in our lives. And we wonder why we're not getting our fucking needs met, right? We wonder why we're not getting what we want. And this bullshit calculus happens underneath the surface. It's the way that we do not give ourselves permission to desire the most beautiful life that we can imagine, because either we don't know how to get there, we don't know people who want that life too, we feel ashamed of it, right? And the consequences of our bullshit calculus are numerous. it is so destructive because we end up living a half life or a false life in the wake of unconsciously doing this calculus all the time around our true desires and our true longings.
And not only do we end up living a half life, but like a false life, we end up enrolling other people into that also. We do relationships in that false way. We enroll other people in having partway honest relationships with us where neither person is getting their needs met. The friend zone is a super common experience that guys we work with end up having, where one guy wants sex and the woman doesn't, and nobody's really able to talk about it. And so they end up in some middle ground kind of relationship. Resentment, drama, painful breakups. There are a lot of people who have children with somebody else when they're not even a match because they haven't been able to be honest with themselves or with the other person about what they really want. And they may have ended up with beautiful children and beautiful stories, but still, the process of realizing that the relationship is founded upon dishonesty and hiding and fear really is a really painful process for adults and for children.
Yeah. And the thing that I didn't say, and that's important to say, is a lot of this is also about being afraid of hurting other people by being honest about what we want, being afraid of causing harm or causing pain, and ultimately being afraid that we're going to be left, that we're not going to belong,
Yeah.
right? And it's important to recognize that we have a lot of compelling reasons to do this bullshit calculus. We have a lot of compelling reasons to reject our authentic desires if they don't line up with a very narrow bandwidth, right? Number one, we've inherited a moral framework for what relationship is supposed to look like, right? We have all of these archetypes of the soul, the soul contract, and the soulmates, and the twin flames, and most of these things are these very sort of specific kind of relationship, this romantic relationship, this cosmic romance, right? Number two, we've inherited an outrageous amount of sexual shame. We are ashamed of our sexuality by and large in our culture, both men and women. Number three, as a man, especially lately, we've gotten the message that our sexuality is not only shameful, but it's dangerous. It is dangerous, potentially toxic, right? And so we're afraid of not just of all of these things. They're triggering all these shame tripwires and all of these like ways that we're supposed to be in the world. And we're terrified that we're not just going to lose love, but we're going to lose a sense of belonging from our whole communities if we step out and claim what we really desire. When in fact, the opposite is more true.
Yeah. There are people out there who want what you want. And for every kind of freak that there is in the world, there's a whole community of other freaks out there who want exactly that same thing. For every person who wants a certain type of relationship, whether that's monogamous or whether that's polyamorous or, whatever it might look like, there are other people out there who want that, who oftentimes are also afraid to fully own that that's what they want also. And you going out into the world being honest, not like needing or trying to get things from other people or saying, this is what I want, you need to give it to me. That's not what this is about. This is about being fully honest and saying, here I am, here's what I want. Who else wants some of this? Who wants some of this goodness that I got to give? And there might be people who are gonna be like, ooh, you creep. Like, no, that's no. And there are gonna be people out there who like, I've been searching for somebody for so long who's willing to just own that they want to play soccer with me. Can we just play soccer together for the rest of our freaking lives? Um, and one of the things that you really the essential thing that you need to be doing to turn all of this around is there's kind of two parts of it. One is be really honest with what you want, and part of being honest with what you really want is evaluating where you're giving up your actual desires for a booby prize. Why don't you talk about booby prize for a moment, Joshua?
Hey guys, let's talk about the booby prize. No pun intended, but I fucking love it, right? Like, there's so much more than booby prizes available in this world for you. If you are willing to set aside the consolation of getting some crumbs of what you really want, and you're willing to just put that up on the felt of the blackjack table and really really go after what you truly want, it might take a little longer. It's going to require a bit more energy and intention and effort. But instead of settling for that booby prize of playing fucking basketball when you want to be playing soccer, of being sort of hanging out as friends and being the sort of emotional confidant, instead of like claiming your desire to have more with somebody who you're attracted to and feel like deeply magnetically desire for, claiming, settling for vanilla sex when what you really want is some kinky ass dark shit going on in your sex life. That's a place of mutual, like, consensual expression of some of the shadows that exist that are so delicious and terrifying to touch, right? And so when you get congruent with yourself, when you come home to your animal body and your animal desires, to what is totally true for you, and you start to give yourself permission to want it, to really want it, to savor the desire for it, and you start practicing with people you feel comfortable and safe with, expressing your desires, especially guys, talk to other guys about what you really want. Have a vulnerable conversation with another man about where you've been settling for less than what you really want. Who's the safest person in your world who you can start to talk to about what's really going on in there? And start building a practice and a habit and a capacity to give yourself permission and to start talking about it, right? And to be able to do that ultimately with somebody who you might want to collaborate on that beautiful need, to do that without any kind of demand or sense of obligation or expectation that they're going to want the same. Because the less of that energy you infuse into your collaborations, the more freely people get to choose whether they want to collaborate with you or they don't want to collaborate with you. And no particular collaborateur is a need. They're a strategy. They're a one possible iteration of how a collaboration could look. And just because somebody or the first three somebodies you talk to are not interested in collaborating with you on that particular desire or need doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean you're never going to find somebody. It means you may not be actually totally in permission yet of your own love of soccer. It means that you are not necessarily committed to resonating at the frequency of what you truly want yet. You're still compromising that a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's the definition of compromise, is letting go of and giving up on what we truly want in order to get a consolation prize, and then ultimately ending up in resentment and in frustration and in incongruence and living a half life because we haven't given ourselves that full permission to tear that fucking bullshit calculus worksheet in half and dream big and dream glorious and dream beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and this is the work that we do with men, is we help them rip up all these conditionings, these pieces of shame, and really live in the world in a wide open way. Get what they want in a way that helps other people get what they really want too. It's a beautiful, synergistic, collaborative place. And that's what this game of love and romance and dating is all about for me. Certainly for every other person that I know, is about having really delicious, beautiful, connective, deeply consensual and inspiring and world expanding experiences. And it's only possible when we are able to own what we want.
And when you're really in this practice, when you're really living this dream, then what happens is you anchor the fact that the sexiest thing that you could say is usually the truest, scariest thing that you can say. And every time I practice this, I can't remember a single time when I practiced this and got like shamed and made wrong for what I've asked for. Usually when I step into that, like the edgiest, scariest, truest thing I can say, I get the response of like, whoa, like, oh, I've been wanting a man to say that to me for so long. I've been wanting a man to just show up and fucking own that for so long. And it feels so good. And it's scary. Like, women will acknowledge it's a little scary to have a man just show up that direct and that penetrating, right? They have to step up and in order to be able to meet you there. And it is so worth it for every single person who gets to step into that level of authenticity and collaboration.
Yeah.
So
that's what we got to say about living out loud, ending the bullshit calculus, and giving yourself permission to want what you really want.
So drop a comment and tell us what you really want.
Yeah.
Take a risk for a moment. And if you, yeah, just drop a comment and tell us what you really want. What's your soccer? What have you been hiding out in the desire for? And and also tell us what the booby prize has been for not asking for that. Like, what have
Mhm.
you been getting out of not claiming your desire and your truth in that? Because I promise
Yeah.
those things are hand in hand. And if you don't suss out the relationship between those things, it's going to be really hard to disconnect from that habit of compromise and that habit of bullshit calculus. So
Yeah.
drop a comment. We'd love to hear from you. If there are any other videos or any other questions that this conversation has inspired in you, drop it. We'd love to sort of respond to some of those. And we'd love to make a video for some of the juicier invitations to talk about some of the things that are entailed by this conversation. So thanks so
Yeah.
much for tuning in. We hope that you are just launching a magnificent year and asking for more and more of what you want in every area of your life. I promise you, the more you ask for what you want, give yourself permission, ask for it without demand, like the richer and bigger and wilder and more beautiful your life gets. And you're just going to have to really just constantly be opening to more goodness, more love, more joy, more pleasure, more sensation as that process progresses. So happy
Talk to you
journey.
soon.